Welcome to Hot Flashbacks, where we boldly navigate the ups and downs and unexpected detours of our 30s and 40s while finally recalling how clueless we were in our 20s. I'm Molly Ward, your captain through this midlife roller coaster. Stick around for laughs, life lessons, and maybe a few I can't believe I survived that stories. Follow our journey on Instagram and Facebook at Hot Flashbacks. Make sure to like, follow, and share so I can keep making these episodes. Let's dive in. I just want everybody to know how awesome you are. Maybe they'll message you or something to get your life.
Oh, don't message me. If you're listening to this, don't message me.
Welcome back to Hot Flashbacks. I'm your host, Molly Ward. Excited about today. As I say, I need a new thing. This is every time I do an intro. Why do I just say every time I'm excited? Nobody cares. I'm not.
I got a juicy topic for you guys today.
I got a
do not want to topic. Miss it.
That's
Don't say
right.
Hot topic. That makes me think of that store in the mall.
You don't like that store in the mall?
I mean,
the kids go there these days,
but it's still there.
Yeah, and so is the mall. Oh, so go figure. I know.
I didn't know any of this stuff. That's what a touch.
Oh man. Welcome to Hot Flashbacks. I'm here today with my really good, really smart, beautiful, kind, intelligent friend, Brooke.
Well, that was very nice. Thank you.
You weren't expecting all that, huh?
I was not. Wow. What an intro.
I just want everybody to know how awesome you are. Maybe they'll message you or something to get your life.
Oh, don't message me. If you're listening to this, don't message me.
If you're listening to this, I don't actually want to talk to any of you. Okay. I'm glad we've got that all hammered out. Brooke, I am looking inside of what you're calling an office.
Yeah.
In your apartment in Chicago, which actually appears to be a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see your face. And we chatted before about topics. And I think sometimes I rag on aging a lot. I mean, because it sucks.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought today we would bring the people joy, Christmas joy, if you will.
Oh my God.
Is the season for joy, right?
Yeah, this is a lot of pressure, though. Joy.
Oh, man. And so we're just going to talk about the joy of aging and what some of the awesome things are about getting older. And so I think the physical stuff and the mental stuff sometimes takes over and you think this is a wild ride and I don't know if I am cut out for it. But there's actually a lot of awesome things about being older and about aging and being able to reflect on your experiences, your life. And so I want to start by saying, how do you think that your life experience up until this point has shaped your perspective on life that you have now? Because I think when we're 20, our life perspective it's short, right? Well, that part of your brain that actually allows you to have perspective doesn't really fully develop until you're 25 or 27 anyway. And so as you get older, I think perspective is a really great thing. And it sometimes saves me from myself. The perspective, the bigger picture or the long range goals and thoughts sometimes can bring me back down to a place where I'm I can compartmentalize. Whereas when I was 20, everything seemed that I didn't have any perspective. What are some things that you think has shaped your perspective on life as you've aged and your perspective now?
It's a very broad question, Molly. I guess what comes to mind first is just with age, you realize, or just through experiences, you realize that you can get through things, right? And when something bad in your personal life or at work or something happened, at least for me, in my 20s, I would get so overwhelmed and just feel oh my God, everything's falling apart. I'm screwing everything up and just that kind of overwhelming feeling. And now I still might feel that way for an hour, but it goes away so much more quickly because you just realize I've made it this far and I have always figured it out and I'll just keep doing that. That seems to be working for me. So it just kind of helps me keep things in perspective in terms of what I'm able to get through and what I'm able to survive, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just more chill.
You're what I've decided is I don't give a fuck anymore. So,
yeah, that too.
It, right?
I mean, for sure. Like, I think you're certainly more, and I feel like it never really goes away that like, no one ever really doesn't care what anyone thinks of them. Right. Like, so you have certain, but you start to care less about what the general population thinks and more about just what the people that, you care about think, right? And those are the voices that matter. And I think that helps a lot too. And you just don't like, you kind of start giving people a pass on, what's that saying? People's opinion of me is none of my business. Like I'm not for everybody. It's fine if they don't like me. Like I feel like that took me some time to get to, where if someone didn't like me for some reason, it would just be like painful, or I would kind of not obsess about it, but just like really try to think, well, why don't they like me? And now I'm just kind of like, well, whatever. Like this is who I am, and it's fine if you don't.
When people don't like me, I assume it's a personality or character flaw on their part. So
yeah, exactly. Right. And I didn't always, but now it's just like, it's not my problem. Like that ultimately, I don't care if you don't like me, then just avoid me. That works out well for both of us.
Yeah. And it is like, I have this theory about, it's not going to be that deep, but that if you have any sort of personality, there are going to be people who don't like you. Like if you are the kind of person who everybody says is really nice and everybody likes, it might be because you don't have a personality or a backbone or boundaries or any of those things that you need. Yeah. So I don't necessarily, I'm the same way. I feel there are people who don't like me.
Oh, I'm one of those people. Though. Did you not know that? Good thing you don't give a fuck anymore.
You're just entertaining our friendship all these years.
Yep.
You're right. That comfort in yourself that says like, this is who I am and this is what I bring. And I know that I'm not perfect, but I know that I'm good and I'm good people, and people that matter will like me. And I don't need everyone to like me to validate feeling good. As a matter of fact, I'm often better off if that's not the case. Cause like who has time for everyone to like them? And how are you going to hang out with everybody? I mean, I just like to keep it small. So
for sure. Well, and then it's a good point too, that you bring up about like, just that's their problem. Like, I think especially like looking back on people who really stressed me out when I was younger, like I'm talking in like junior high and like high school stuff, where you can look back now with like life knowledge and realize like, oh, they were like probably really going through some stuff at home and they were just taking it out on me, and it really had nothing to do with me. Whereas when you're in it, you think like, God, why did they hate me? Why did I, what did I do that was so wrong, when really it wasn't you at all?
Even as an adult, that's really helpful. Some things never change. And being an adult, you still have like weird relationships with people. Like in high school, like someone didn't like you or was mean to you or picked on you or spread rumors about you. And that still happens as an adult. Yeah. Like it does. It still happens. It's weird because you thought when you left high school, you probably thought, oh, thank God, this is going to be so much easier. It just never really stops. Like it's still a thing.
Some people are still in that mindset, unfortunately.
Yeah. It does help me to remember that hurt people. And it's just a simple phrase, but there are people in my life even now who, if I could choose, wouldn't be. But at the end of the day, we have, in-laws and we have coworkers and we have, spouses that have friends and all those kinds of things where you have to sometimes be around people that maybe aren't your favorite. And I just remind myself that hurt people. And if people are being hurtful to me, it's probably because they're hurting on their own. And the misery loves company is like the most basic phrase in the world, but it's totally true. I have found that miserable people like to bring other people down. And I'm like, why is that person trying to make my life so terrible? And then I'm like, oh, I know. It's because their life is terrible and they're miserable.
And, I lost the thought. Here's getting older. Like I almost said something and then it just like completely popped out of my head.
I saw your mouth opened and then no words came out.
It was something about, I lost it. It'll come back. It's fine. Okay. Just people never really growing up, or I don't know. Yeah. I definitely have people like that in my life too, where that's my default now, thankfully, is just like, it's not, this is what I was going to say. Just not taking stuff so personally. I think especially when I was a kid, I took all of it so personally. And now it's just like my default is just, oh, they must be going through something. Or when you said misery loves company, I think that people who kind of live in cynicism, like that's the way they can justify that position to themselves is to like suck other people into it and like try to commiserate and like, It's kind of wild if you, I don't know, I'm going a little bit off on a tangent here, but I started like noticing that a little bit more over the last few years, just how many people, that's their way of connecting with other people is to complain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, it's sweet and sad when you think about it that way. And it's not personal. It's just, that's how they learned to like get through life and try to connect with people. And it's not healthy. And it's probably not the kind of person I want to, be real close to, but just, yeah, like having sympathy for the way that they are is not because of you. It's just, that's their coping mechanism essentially.
Yeah. I have found that I can have more compassion for people and less like dislike and hatred in my heart as I get older, because I just don't like the time and energy it takes for me to not like someone or for me to hate someone or for me to constantly focus on how someone is awful. I just don't have it anymore. It's too much. Like I could name maybe a few people that I don't like. Other than that, like I don't even have the energy to be concerned or consumed with people that I do not like. And I have gotten to a place where I can actually have some compassion for those people in a way that I just, like I said, I remind myself, like, they're just miserable. Like they've chosen this path and this attitude in life, and they're unhappy with their life. And so they're trying to make me unhappy with my life. And that's just what some people do. And
that's what a lot of people do.
And that perspective has given me the ability to be a little more compassionate, not in a way that I'm, not having boundaries with people that are mean to me, just in a way that I'm like, oh yeah, they just did that thing. They just said that thing to me. I don't like it, but I also don't care, because that's coming from a place of hurt on their part. And I can, let it go, brush my shoulder off. Is that, did Jay-Z say that?
Do you really want to make a Jay-Z reference right now?
I'm just dusting off my shoulders everywhere I go. Listen, I know our audience is going to get that reference.
Yes, it's true. Do you want to throw a P. Diddy reference in for good measure?
We'll delete that right out of there. Thank you. Thank you. I never thought about it until now, because I didn't give this topic like a whole ton of thought, but God, perspective is probably one of the greatest gifts that you're given as you get older. Like the ability to separate yourself from things and events and people and have perspective about other people's journey and just your general ability to decide. I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to decide what kind of day I'm going to have. And it's cliche, but it
actually works. Yeah,
it does. And 20-year-old me would have been like, because I say this sometimes to my kids, like, okay, well, just decide what kind of day you're going to have. And they kind of are like, are you kidding me? And I know that they're like at their age as a teenager, they really can't. They don't have the perspective to do that. But I'm trying to teach them that we get to decide how we respond. And also other people's responses are their own.
Right.
They own how they respond, or if they get emotional, or if they overreact. Those are for them to deal with, not for you. And I think that's a healthy boundary that I've been able to navigate in my 40s, that in my even late 20s, I probably wasn't very successful at.
Yeah. Same for me.
God, we're like the same person, it turns out.
Yep. Who knew? We're so different, Molly. That's why it's funny.
I know. It's true. It's true. But you know what's cool about being different? I mean, we're all different, but like you and I are like, I think as we've gotten older, actually like quite different. I always learn things from you and your perspective. And I have a greater appreciation for that as I get older, is like the things you can learn from the people you surround yourself with and the perspectives that they have. I always learn something from you. And that's a nice feeling in a friendship, to be like, I had this long talk and we caught up, but also like I learned so many new things. Like when I tell you about, like different kinds of rocks or.
Always. You're always educating me about geology.
Yes. So, hey, did we have geology together in college? I feel like we did. Do you remember Groyle's oil?
No, I don't
We
think
didn't have
so.
geology together?
I don't think I took geology, did I?
Oh,
I don't remember having any classes with you. We had classes together?
I feel very attacked.
No, I mean, truly, we could have. I don't have a great memory.
Do I even know you? Okay, so I took this geology class and the professor was super old. I think it was like my freshman year. And he would brew this coffee in the morning in the lab. And it was like really black. And I want to say his like last name was like Groyle. And he called it Groyle's oil, which, by the way, kept me very far from ever trying it. Although he did often offer it to the class.
But good for him. He figured it out. He didn't give a shit what anybody thought.
He called it that because he didn't want anyone else to have it, which I think worked out really well. It did look pretty disgusting. It was kind of like thick and like black.
That does not ring any bells for me. Plus, we knew each other freshman year, but I didn't come until halfway through freshman year.
Yeah, second semester. That's when I took geology.
It is. I don't think I took a geology class.
Maybe like look through your journal from.
I'm going to go pull out my, what do they call those? You know, you're in higher ed.
Time capsule.
Transcripts, and I'll see what.
Okay. I don't know. Go dig something up and find out what kind of.
I don't know.
Yeah, find your time machine.
No, my transcripts. I'll see if I took a geology class.
Okay. I have a question for you about, since I just kind of mentioned journaling as like a segue, but journaling, mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, etc.
Mm-hmm. Woo woo.
Yeah, all that stuff. What is your perspective now on gratitude, and how does that help you? Because I think you have to have some of that to age gracefully and to feel good about your life. What is your perspective on gratitude, and how do you integrate that?
You know, I did the gratitude, I guess I don't know specifically if there's like a certain framework for what gratitude journals are supposed to look like, but mine was a spin-off from this play called Every Brilliant Thing. Have you heard of that?
You're doing it wrong. That's not.
Oh, okay. Shoot. Yeah. I'm going to start over.
If you don't do it right, it does not count.
Oh God. Oh my God. I have a lot of catching up to do, clearly. But this play called Every Brilliant Thing, there's a version of it on HBO that I watched.
Is it a one person? It's a one act, right? Like,
yeah.
It's a one thing.
Have you seen that?
I have.
It's fantastic. And that inspired me. So he, you know, a big part of the show, right, is that he's listing like just all of the random things he can think of to be happy and grateful for. And so that's what my list is just like, you know, there'll be heavier things, like therapy. Like, I'm so grateful for that therapy is a thing, that is acceptable, that I have access to it. And then also like croissants, like I'm super great, like just little stuff, because that's the thick of life, is all of the little stuff day to day. And that obviously is also a cliche, but it's so true. And just like, even today, you know, yesterday it was like 19 degrees in Chicago. I woke up in the morning and it was like 7 degrees, right? I'm walking my dog and it's so cold. And then today it's almost 30 degrees. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, makes me so happy. Just like little things like that of like, oh, good, I'll be able to get a nice walk in today.
Wow.
It lights me up.
2 things. One, the first problem was that you woke up in the morning. Next time, just sleep until the afternoon. The second thing was you just said like, oh, I just can't wait to see how many steps I'm going to get in today. That's old people talk.
Oh, it is old people talk. Yeah. I don't count my steps, but I just love walking. That's like a big part. I guess it's almost like a meditation for me. I just love walking.
20-year-old you is like just shuddering to think.
I walk. I go to the gym 3 times a week. But who is this person?
Yeah.
That's another thing in terms of gratitude, is just your body. Like, I see what the old, like very old people in my life are going through. And like, I'm grateful that I have the perspective and like I'm in an economic position where I can prioritize like strength training and yoga and walking as much as I can. And just like, and that I have the mobility to do those things. And my hope is that I will not be as fragile as some people are in their 80s if I make it to that point. But,
well, I plan to like knock you around a little bit. So you probably want to make sure you're not fragile.
Yeah, good idea. You got to keep me tough.
Yep, that's right. I'll hip check you. Yeah. your body is there's like this interesting evolution of your perspective on your physical appearance, but also your physical abilities.
Yeah.
Like you take for granted, I think, the things your body can do. And as you get older, I start to notice elderly people who are not physically able and think to myself, oh man, I should really be more conscious of how grateful I am that my body can still do these things, because someday it may not be able to.
Yeah.
More so than I'm concerned about like how hangy my arm bird is. Is that what it's called?
Bird?
Yeah, like the thing that hangs
flap?
down. I think it's called a bird. No, it's not. What'd you call it?
A flap. I don't know.
Okay, bird's wings.
Either
flap.
way, it
this
sounds
makes sense.
gross.
No. This is how I got there. That like I'm not as worried about that.
Yeah.
As 25-year-old me would have been, and just more grateful that I can still get out and get my groceries and get them in the car by myself and go on a hike. And I don't know if I can go on a hike. I haven't done it in so long, but I'm pretty sure that I can.
I bet you could do it.
I could. But yeah, the gratefulness we have for our bodies and what they're capable of. And I also want to go back to what you said about the little things and kind of referencing that it's a play, right? It was a play.
Yeah, it is a play. I think it's still running. They have it running in Chicago now, actually.
Okay. Well, please don't brag.
And I live in a big city, so you should come visit sometime.
I would love to.
You should.
Did you just invite me to visit?
I did. Come visit.
I'm coming. When the weather gets warmer. The little things they do. I was actually telling my therapist this recently, that like I can be in a moment at work or at home where I'm stressed and frustrated or things aren't going well. And I can think about something tiny that totally turns my day around. Like the other day I was having not a great day and I was going to head out of the office and I remembered that I had leftovers in the fridge that I was really looking forward to eating.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Sweet. Like I feel better already. Just like having that, like knowing that one tiny thing that when I get home, I'm going to eat those leftovers. And wouldn't you know it, my wife ate them because that's what she always does with my food.
This is why you don't get married, kids.
But yeah, you're right. Those little things, the croissant in the morning or waking up and being like, you know what? It's kind of cold out, but I'm going to have a cup of coffee and read my book. And I feel so grateful to have that hour to myself.
Love it.
And when you focus on those little things, I think it does change the way you feel about your life, because those things happen throughout the day. You just don't always give attention to them. Yeah.
And it takes practice. Like you have to work at focusing on that stuff. Like I'm sure this is true for you too, but one of the biggest things in that regard for me is my pets. Like just looking at them sleeping right now, they're so cute.
Yeah.
They're so cute and so sweet. And I'm just so happy to have these little creatures in my life that I get to go through the day with. I have a dog and a cat, and they're just my little babies. I love them so much. They bring me so much joy, and just being grateful that I can, take care of them and love them, and little stuff like that. I will add two thoughts. Sorry. As you were rambling on, I had some thoughts.
I'm sorry. Whose show is this again?
I'm grateful for friends who can take a joke. Of that list that I started, my Every Brilliant Thing list, so many of them are food related. And what a treat that we have such access to all of these different types of cuisine, and it's really lovely. But one of the other things that I started doing, it wasn't even it just happened one day years ago, and I just do it every now and then since then, but sounds really cheesy, but especially when I take my dog out at night, I will just look up at the sky and look at the moon and just think about how everybody on the planet can see that moon, and we're all just here hurling on a rock through space, and we're all just floating around trying to figure it the fuck out.
And it makes things seem like not such a big deal.
Exactly. How cute is it that humans are trying? It's I don't know, it's kind of endearing.
Did you look at the stars last night?
I did not.
Oh.
I live in the city.
I did.
Don't really see them.
Well, I mean, you're just bragging about your big city life, so.
Pluses and minuses, okay? Sometimes when I think it's a star, it's really just a plane from O'Hare flying over.
Just go with it. Just go with it.
I did not have a moon moment last night, but like at least like once a week, I'll just it's just like what are the odds that we would exist? And like, what are the odds that I would exist in the same space of like all the people that I love so much, you included? Like, how lucky are we that we got to be on the planet at the same time? Like,
it's so like existential though, right?
Yeah, it is. But for some reason, I think that can be a little overwhelming to think about sometimes, but I find it really grounding and just like makes me realize like the stuff that you're worried about at work is just not that big of a deal.
You're right. I think you mentioned that you would have like a lot of baked goods on your gratitude list, and
food in general. Love food.
Mine is full of my gratitude list is full of like elastic items, like
elastic items.
Yeah, like sweatpants and jeans with elastic, and the elastic that keeps your socks up, and the elastic on your underwear so they don't roll down into your pants.
It is kind of a wonder material. That's a really good one.
So something to add to your list for today.
Yeah, I will. Spandex, elastic.
Yeah. Oh, spandex. I don't know if I'm grateful for spandex though. Well, maybe on some people I am. How have your relationships with family and friends changed over time to really bring you more joy and more fulfillment?
Oh, well, this is good because it definitely ties in with the kind of perspective shifting stuff. I think for me, there was a real learning curve. And this is probably true for most people, right? Like the most tenuous relationship and most critical relationship that people can have in their lives is most often their parents, right? And I think kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, realizing that like they're just going through something. Like your parents are just people. And even though it makes sense why you think that everything they do is a reflection on you and you take everything personally, because that's kind of how we're wired, right? Once you kind of get older, you realize, especially once you like reach far beyond the age that your parents were when they had you, and you realize like, oh my God, like they were just kids, just like, and they're just trying to figure it out. And like, I don't know, especially with my dad is very different from me. He's a good-hearted person, but we have very different perspectives on the world.
Yeah.
And he's also not someone that you can have a very difficult conversation with, because he kind of gets like, he hasn't done a lot of like internal work, I would say, to like manage his emotions and face his demons, that kind of stuff. And so it's hard to go deep with someone who doesn't go deep with themselves, right? And so instead of feeling like he wasn't doing that because of me, there's something wrong with our relationship, with the way I'm coming into this. It's like, oh, he doesn't do that with anybody. Like that's just kind of how he is. That's how he's decided to move through life. And that's made me accepting that, like recognizing it and then accepting it. And it's certainly not like a light switch. Like I have to remind myself of it too, but that's made it so much easier to just ultimately accept him for who he is and where he is and what he's able to do with his life so far. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what he's able to bring instead of what he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and also just kind of, there's a part of it that's grieving a little bit of like the relationship that you wanted to have with someone, and just accepting like, well, no, you can't have that, but you can have this. And this is pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that same experience with my parents where it's like, I'm recognizing now, and maybe more so since I'm, have a family, that they just were doing the best that they could at the time. Like and I know that my parents loved and cared about us and made mistakes, some of which they probably know about and feel terrible about, and some of which they may have no idea they did. But they're good, kind people who were doing the best that they could do. And life throws you like a whole lot of shit sometimes. Yeah. And trying to navigate that while also trying to raise your children is not an easy task. And I know, I said this to Erin once too, like, you'll probably be in therapy because of me someday. Like I recognize that. And I also tell her like, I've made mistakes, and we're trying to do the best that we can. Just know that there's no rule book. There's no guidebook. There's no instructions. And we're just going to do what we think is best in that moment. And in 20 years, we might look back and say, why did we do that? In that moment, I think we thought that was the best option. And that's hard. But my relationship with my parents, although I don't know that they would say this, which maybe makes me a failure, is one of more gratitude for what they did and the time they spent and the energy and the money and the emotional tax and all of the things that it takes to take care of someone. And while, like I said, there were things that happened that were hurtful and there are things that happened that I still might not understand, I know that all of it came from a place of love and a place of doing what they thought was best or what they were most capable of doing in that moment. And I hope that other people can have that perspective for me someday. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think like you're a step ahead of it. Cause I think, not to go off on a parenting tangent, but like one of the things I hear repeatedly about parenting is that it's not in never doing anything wrong. It's in having the ability to repair the things that go wrong. And like just opening that channel with your daughter to be able to say, hey, look, I know I probably screwed some stuff up. We'll talk about it in 20 years if we need to, or you know what I mean? Like that's huge to know that you could actually go to your parent and say like, you know, when you did this, it really hurt me, and know that they aren't going to fly off the handle and be like, oh, wow, I'm going to sit with that. And I'm sorry that I did that. You know, I think that's huge. So,
but my relationships are so much deeper now. And not all of it is because we've been friends forever. So, you know, you and I have been friends for, I don't like to do math, but it's like 20 years.
I think it's more than that.
I think it's more than that too. I think it's more than that too.
But yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. And our friendship, I mean, I'm going out on a limb here. Our friendship is deep. We have a deep connection, and that's been built over time. But what I find now is that when I develop relationships with new people at my age, they're already deep because, or they're not. And I've decided like, that's not what we're doing, right? We're just like work friends who sometimes hang out and may sometimes go to the movies or something, but we're not. Is that my relationships with people are intentionally deep and connecting in a way that I wasn't capable of a while ago. And part of that is what you referenced is my ability to be deep and connect with myself. And I think I've done that work. There's always room for improvement. There are relationships I have that I've had for 20 plus years that are really deep and meaningful and like really touch my soul. And then there's people that I've known for a year or two that can still have that connection because of the age that we're at, we're able to develop that. It doesn't have to take 23 years. It can take 23 months, you know, and that's kind of nice. Like
for sure. And you can meet people and kind of suss out pretty quickly whether they're the type of person who's like, I don't know, I guess like self-reflective enough to have the type of connection you're looking for. And you can just, I didn't have any awareness of any of that 20 years ago. Right. I mean, we're lucky that like kind of our trajectories in terms of like, just like internal personal growth have been similar, and like that we were able to stay close because we both were working on ourselves. But yeah, I agree. There's certainly people like you just have to kind of keep certain relationships compartmentalized to certain areas. And that was something I actually kind of struggled with. I felt for a long time, and this is maybe a little off topic, but it's reminding me, like I felt for a long time that you had to show up and be your full self with everybody. Otherwise you weren't being authentic. But that you don't have to, you shouldn't do that. Like not everyone deserves to get to know you that well. And it's okay to be protective of who you really are. If it's not with somebody who's ready to like really see it or really receive it or respect it. So
yeah, I never thought about that. It's kind of like getting naked. Like you don't just get naked in front of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, that's a great analogy. Like, here I am, nude, everybody. And then getting responses, people like, they don't like that, or it's not comfortable for them, or you made them uncomfortable. So I think your personality in your experiences in life could make like work the same way. I never really thought about that like it is not inauthentic necessarily to not share things with people until you're ready. And that doesn't make you
not authentic, and maybe you're never going to be ready. Maybe they never deserve to know. Maybe you don't need to share with that person.
Yeah.
And so there are more people that know me now, even though I have less friends than I did when I was 25, right? But there are more people in my life that know me, and not just because of time, also because of connection, experiences, and investment in knowing each other and really knowing each other. And that's a good feeling. It feels like good to be known.
Absolutely. So and to be able to be vulnerable with people. Would you just say I'm kind of famous?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, a little bit.
You?
No?
Yeah. Oh. I didn't know if there's someone else in the room.
Shut up.
I kid. No,
you're supposed to be good for my
it's
ego.
only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before
I'm taking
blown
off
up the charts.
Obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I lost the thread, but yes, it's something to be super grateful for, to just have that perspective, to be able to like read what kind of people you want to connect to and who you want to open up to, and just who you want in your life. Yeah. It's good to be a little more picky, I guess, or just discerning.
Yeah. I think also the skill in managing relationships. So there's like a skill in managing any relationship, and that the emotional intelligence that's required to manage the relationships in the way that you want them to be managed. And sometimes that means like managing people out of your life. And sometimes that means managing people into your life and saying like, this is someone I want to be close to. This is someone I want to spend time with. This is someone I want to share with, or this is someone that I don't need in my life anymore. And those things that used to bring me stress, like I remember being younger and thinking like, this person is such a drain on me. I don't want them to hang out in my dorm room anymore, but I don't know how to fix that.
Right.
Without, being immature and ghosting them, or telling them to go away because they're annoying, or faking that I like them and then feeling guilty about that. And now I think with time and practice and relationship building comes the ability to manage my relationships in the direction that I want them to go, and in a way that's healthy for both parties, but brings me the kind of like fills my cup in the way that I need, that I have these people that I connect with in this way. And then I've got, we all have these like kind of tiers of friends. I've got friends that I just like to see at work, and we laugh, and sometimes we hang out and we share funny stories, but that's where it is. And that's just where I want it to be. Like that's, and then sometimes you might have a friend at work or a friend from the gym that you're like, I really want to know this person. And then how do you develop that? And that's a skill that I'm really grateful for as I get older, is being able to manage the relationships that I have, and hopefully, I make mistakes, but hopefully do it well, so that I can have people in my life that do fill my cup and that do know me in the way that I want them to,
Yeah. And that you aren't like resenting secretly, or, I think of a friend that I had that we were relatively close. This is when I lived in LA, and she was like a newer friend. I guess we'd known each other probably about 2 years, and it got to the point where she was getting really like kind of treating me like her therapist. It was starting to stress me out. And while, when I was younger, I might have just ghosted her or just complained to her behind her back, I essentially like put together a message of that I've felt like I could stand behind as like a human, of like, look, this is what's going on my end. And I would love to help you find a therapist. I've been going to therapy for a long time, and I think it would be helpful if you're interested, but I can't be that person to you. It's just, I don't have that bandwidth. And she didn't respond. Did never heard from her again.
Dang.
Yeah.
But that says more about her than it does about you, right?
Well, exactly. Right. And I knew that like, I have to send her a message that is kind, because I respect her and I like her.
Yeah.
And that I know that if she gets mad about, I can still feel good about. Like that her reaction doesn't matter. All I can control is the way I communicate. And at least I knew, like at least it became clear to me that is the kind of friendship she was looking for. And I just told her, I'm not that girl.
Yeah.
And then she was like, all right, moving on, and it is what it is. But it's like, that could have been dragged out for years of just like awkwardness.
And you'd be doing her a disservice and you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why not just be honest about what you're capable of bringing to the table and what you're willing to bring to the table? And if you can work through it in that moment, that's great. And I think I have plenty of friends who we've had hard conversations and worked through it. It was an interesting moment. I was like, okay, well, I guess that settles that.
Now I know where you're at. So when I lived in New Orleans, I went on a date. I don't know how old I was, but younger. I went on a date and I think a friend set us up and I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot. And there were some like orange flags early on before I actually saw him face to face. This is when I thought I should date men. So we went to play Frisbee golf, which is odd because like I've actually never played Frisbee golf and it's kind of like not an easy,
weird date.
But anyway, we were outside and it was nice. And, but then he also like smoked cigarettes like the entire time we were outside, which I also just thought was an odd thing to do. Like
on a date. Yeah.
Had one or said like, hey, do you mind if I have a cigarette? Like just smoked the whole time. Anyway, I didn't have a great time and I came home and I thought about it. And he messaged me and said something to the effect of like, basically, hey, I had a really good time. Like we should, go out again. And I wrote back and I said, I really appreciate you letting me know that. And thanks for spending some time with me. I think I said something to the effect of like, I just don't really feel like you're the right person. Like I didn't really feel a connection and you seem like a great person, but I don't think that this is for me. And he wrote back and said, it's not like I asked you out again or anything. So
I mean, you kind of did.
Okay.
This is showing a maturity level that I'm glad I'm dodging.
Yeah. I mean, he totally was like, I just said like, thanks for your time. Cool to meet you. You're not the person for me. I didn't feel the attraction. I didn't feel the spark, but good luck. And he was like, well, it's not like I asked you out again. And I didn't say we were going to go out together. And I was like,
oh my God.
Well, I mean, you did, but all right. It's the same kind of experience where I go, yeah. So there were some orange flags and this one is a red flag because his response, instead of being like, hey, cool. Like, thanks for letting me know so that I'm not wasting my time or, he was like, well, I don't like you anyway. And I'm like, okay, sure. Bye.
Oh, it's so immature. Yeah.
People are weird. Relationships are weird. So to round out this topic, tell me about the joys that you experience in aging related to perimenopause. No, I'm just kidding. Are there any?
I would have needed that question beforehand. I need some
Are there any? I don't know. I want to Google like, how do you know when you have your first hot flash? Like what? I mean, I don't know if I had one, but I feel like I did.
Sounds to me like you had one.
What are the symptoms besides being hot? We should phone a friend here because P just told me recently. Peep said that she believes that she had her first hot flash.
Oh yeah, I think she told me about that too.
Yeah, she was texting me in a panic. Maybe we need to get her to special guest star.
Maybe
talk
a
about
little
that
drop-in
experience.
episode.
Yeah. What does a hot flash feel like? Let's see. The internet says sudden intense wave of heat in the upper body, usually chest, neck, and face.
Is that what was happening? Yeah.
I had that. Yeah. It wasn't so much the heat as it was like the instant sweating that happened. Just like, you know how you feel when you wake up from a night sweat? Those are the worst.
For sure.
But sometimes you get them when you're like breaking a fever
and your heart's just kind of beating really fast.
And like everything's just wet. And you're like, how did this happen? It was like that for about 30 seconds. And I just kind of like looking at myself, like, what is happening to me? And then it was over. So
I think that was it. Congratulations.
Am I done? Was that the experience?
Getting started, baby.
The beginning of the end, really.
Yeah.
It was
I think you'll just
wildly uncomfortable.
It'll be the new normal.
Last question. Being older also means having more free time, which is nice. What have you found joy in?
I mean, I spend a lot of time with my friends. I don't have kids. I don't have a partner. And particularly having moved back to the Midwest because I'm from Wisconsin, I'm a lot closer to some of my very good friends. And I've made some new friends in Chicago. I just like getting out. And one of the things that I like about living here too is like there's there's always something to do. There's always a show to go to. One of my favorite comedians just came through town a couple of weeks ago, and one of my friends and I just went over to the show, and just being able to kind of on a whim go out and do stuff. I don't know, that sounds kind of boring, but
you're kind of boasting about Chicago.
Am I?
I feel like this should be a different episode. Brooke brags about Chicago, part 400.
I mean, listen, there's so much cool stuff about it. You used to live around here.
You're right. And
honestly, like, I'm also, I am pretty active socially, but I'm also very much an introvert and like to sit on my couch and watch TV and have a glass of wine. I find a lot of gratitude in those moments. Like, just the fact that
the peace.
Well, and just like I am in total control of my life. Like, I think about growing up, I felt really trapped. I was like the oldest of 8 kids, and my mom had all these kids, and then she ran a daycare in the house. So I was like working from the time from the time my little brother was born.
Yeah, child labor.
And yeah, I mean, a little like, I just remember feeling so trapped, and like, this is the complete opposite of that. I live my own life on my own terms. At the end of the day, I get to just like do whatever I want, watch whatever I want. I'm very grateful to just to be in a position where, knock on wood, like where I've been able to make a life for myself.
So I'd say, don't have kids then. I'm like, because
that's the message. Yeah. That's the message. That was the best decision I ever made.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me into your office.
My kitchen.
I'm calling it an office kitchen.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for being here. Keep finding that joy in your old age during this Christmas season. This is Hot Flashbacks. We're out. Want more? We're on all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just search for Hot Flashbacks and subscribe.